Why are you giving these attractive women your number? And one or two people, you think you gave your number to a couple people. Why are you giving, as a married man, your number out to multiple women? It isn't like she was the director of management of the Bellagio Hotel and he was booking a DJ gig, right? Nobody should be that friendly when they're married. Nobody is screwing you. You're screwing yourself. You're disrespecting your wife. Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktailers? I apologize in advance for my voice. My allergies are, and I'm doubling up. I'm taking allergy medication in the morning and allergy medication at night. But I just saw online the Canadian wildfires are apparently affecting the air quality in New York because this is like crazy. I'm losing my voice as I'm talking and having to constantly drink water. So I'm sorry.
Well, we just hope you're feeling better. And I struggle with allergies too. And it's like, I don't know, it's been an extra long season. And we have this one tree in our front yard that drops, and like on our front area that drops stuff, like different stuff all year long. And I think I'm allergic to all.
You're allergic to everything it drops.
Pretty much. Okay, so we should start with Summer House because the reunion was on last night, but also some big news was also dropped today.
So today, Paige officially announced her departure, and this week has just been filled with will she, won't she, different intel. Amanda and I, prior to anybody saying she wasn't returning, had a long chat a couple pods ago. Our listeners know that we really felt there was no way she'd be returning full time.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, she doesn't need the check. I have to say, I never saw Paige as somebody who loved it. It was more a vehicle to get her where she wanted to be. And it appears to me she's quite possibly, she's got further to go because everything she touches is gold. But just quite frankly, it didn't make sense for her to come back for that check. I did think we'd get appearances, and I do believe, and I'm going to walk you guys through all of the different intel we had, Amanda and I will, because I do believe there were contract negotiations trying to get appearances. I was told that she was asking for a lot of money, rightfully so. So whether or not we'll see her on Summer House, really, in my opinion, comes down to what the budget is and if they were able to make it work. I would like to point out that a source reached out to me as soon as Paige announced and said, B, notice she's thanking the NBCU family and not specifically Bravo. This is a perfect example of one door closing, another one opening. There's a bigger deal coming down the pipeline. Does that look like a regular feature on the Today Show, her own show, in addition to maybe a Summer House spinoff?
She said in the post, too, she said, you'll see me again. And that doesn't surprise us. Yeah.
So I think we should walk everybody through the different intel we got this week because sometimes it's funny to see how we landed here.
Yes. Okay. So at the beginning of the week, we got this email. Subject: casting. Casting is looking at bringing, and the email was from Summer House at Bravo. So this is how we know what the email is about. Casting is looking at bringing in 2 new guys and 2 new girls, all single. They want Jesse, Lexi, Wes, and Sierra to be around single people so the drama of possible hookups happens. Sadly, Lindsay, Carl, and Paige won't be full-time, but will definitely make appearances and might be shown in solo scenes in the city a little, which will be like more test scenes for a spinoff. Gabby and Emerald are done, and Danielle will not be visiting any longer.
Thank God for that.
The Danielle part. Mean. She's just mean. I'm tired of her. I agree.
Bitter. So yesterday, we got more intel, and other gossip sources were saying different things. Regarding the Summer House cast, I was told it This was yesterday. It isn't decided yet. Kyle and Amanda weren't mentioned in that email. My source said they're full-time. As of yesterday, I was told Paige is still negotiating. The want is for full-time, but they're giving her flexibility to not go to the Hamptons and film with Lindsay in the city. Full departure with only guest appearances are the backup plan. And again, the person had the same thought that she just doesn't want her love life in general played out on camera because the payoff isn't worth it for her to expose that much. So she announced a full departure. I do think that the last thing anybody would do is alienate the network that made them famous. So we will absolutely see her. A separate source did say that she was asking for a lot of money. That's where these negotiations came into play. This was as of yesterday, and obviously it was ironed out yesterday and the announcement she made today. She didn't mention an appearance, but if she's making a deal with NBCU, an overarching deal, I don't see a world where they don't work in something this summer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And why would she mention that? Because even if she pops up at a lunch in the city, she's not going to mention that in her goodbye post.
No, she just said, you'll see us, you'll see me again. And we know, there's been talk about the spinoff in the city show. And, I got to give it to her because she did it right. She built something else amazing while on the show in a situation where she has creative control, she and Hannah do, for Giggly Squad and all of those properties, including the tour, all of that. She has also built a sizable Amazon live selling business as well as lots of brand deals and influencing. I really do think, not everybody can do this. I think she is a star, right? As we have discussed, she's doing it right. And she's leaving when the show still wants her. I'm sure, leaving on very good terms. And she's leaving when she doesn't need the show. And I think everybody should follow this as textbook on how you do it. Because I think a lot about the other housewives who have dabbled in other things, right? Like Teresa Giudice comes to mind. And
right, there was a point where she could have done more.
She should have.
And she didn't. But not everybody is offered that opportunity.
Paige made it for herself. Paige made it for herself. And that's what I think is so cool about her. But
not everybody has the likability factor. Like, as an example, Amanda gets brand deals, Ciara gets brand deals. People like them on the show. They're not in a position to give up the check.
No. And
the exposure that comes. They don't have a podcast that 1 million people listen to, as Paige and Hannah do.
And that's where I think as well that Paige, in her next step, whatever she does next, she's probably looking for more creative control as well.
Yeah.
And to not be a part of an ensemble cast where there is less control of her image and the way that she is portrayed, honestly. So
she's a huge brand. She's a name.
I think
one name only, Paige.
I think it makes so much sense for her. And I obviously we're going to miss her, but I think this is a really smart call on her part.
I agree wholeheartedly. I know we'll still see her. I know we can listen to her on her podcast. She has her YouTube show with Hannah. So I will miss her on Summer House. I think it's absolutely the right move. I wonder what the success of the show without her looks like. And speaking of those who are continuing on the show, we saw at the reunion, the second part, Amanda and Kyle opened up about the struggles in their marriage. Amanda said that the combination of Kyle's work and party habits led her to have one foot out the door, I'm quoting directly.
Right.
Kyle was asked, "Are you ready to have kids?" And he countered with, "Is Amanda ready to have kids?" And we saw this in the clip, but I found it pretty shocking that she said, yeah, with someone who actually wants to have kids with me. So clearly, Kyle was trying to gloss it over like, yeah, I've made changes. Things are not great. And him trying to spin it that he's made some changes, but we know about his current work and party schedule, and no changes have been made. And Amanda looked very unsatisfied with his answers.
Yeah, she said it's hard to be a family when he's working as much and then he's gone on the weekends on these DJ gigs. I believe she used the term midlife crisis about him.
And we do have some exclusive intel that And Amanda and I both, my Amanda, have really hesitated to share this in the past. Ultimately, because they discussed the issues in their marriage at the reunion and we saw the clips before it aired, I did share to Cocktail Party the most recent intel and receipts that we got. And if you are not a subscriber, we are now going to share some of it here.
Cocktailers, in my personal life, I always say I love to cook, but not on a deadline. Meaning that I love cooking when it's a leisurely thing, but I hate cooking when it's a weeknight and I'm racing to get dinner on the table. But Caraway has changed that a bit. While I still much prefer a leisurely cooking situation, the other night I had a realization. I was making dinner and also meal prepping a bunch of breakfast items for the week because my son has a new, very busy summer sports schedule, and I'm trying to make sure that he gets some healthy food before he leaves and then when he's in transit from one practice to another. While I'm doing this, I realize that Caraway has made my life easier. The pots and pans are definitely gorgeous, but they perform well and they clean like a dream. Even with scrambled eggs, which was one of the items I was making, that always used to give me a lot of trouble with my other pans, but not with Caraway. I kind of figure too, if I'm going to go to all this trouble to meal prep healthy meals for my family, it sure helps to know that I'm cooking these meals with non-toxic cookware. This summer, quit cooking with toxins. Over 70% of fry pans sold in America contain Teflon. 2.5 minutes is all it takes before a nonstick pan overheats and releases toxins. Spring into action with the healthy swap to Caraway. Our favorite cookware set will save you $150 versus buying all of the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/gossip, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for cocktailers, so visit carawayhome, carawayhome.com/gossip or use code GOSSIP at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. Okay, so as we said, we don't always, sometimes when we're posting stuff, like it's not our favorite to post this. But in this case, there were receipts. So Kyle was in Vegas for a bachelor party and also a DJ gig. A cocktailer who we know because we chat with her. She sent pictures and videos of them hanging out and said he took her number. He had no ring on, but they did not hook up. It was super friendly. The second part of the summer house reunion had not been shown yet. But as we just mentioned, things are tense in their marriage. So we shared this one, prefacing that although it was flirty, it was not a hookup or anything like that.
Many times I've received DMs, we've received emails with similar intel, and we have decided not to post it. There is a guilt that comes in with us posting this stuff. But the reality is, he is a public figure. All reality stars are. And you are in Vegas at very public pool parties. So if we don't post it, somebody else is going to. The same way, Scandival, we posted the intel we had about the affair with Raquel, and then it was confirmed. It gets to a point where I kind of take the temperature along with Amanda, and we really do come to agreement.
Yeah.
On it. And sometimes I'll be ready to post and she'll be like, I don't know, let's hold off, and vice versa. And we kind of came to an agreement this time, like, okay, it's time, because Jesse teased the big announcement. And I thought, based on the clips and based on the fact that he wasn't wearing his ring at the pool and he was so blatant, that maybe we were getting a separation announcement. Honestly, that is why I felt comfortable posting it. Ultimately, they did not announce a separation. But we do have a confirmation from our source that they'll be full-time next season. All of this is in the air. Amanda has said that Kyle's partying puts their marriage at risk. So I don't know what we're looking at this summer.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say, too, just reflecting on all of this, I think it's one thing, like you and I have talked about, like going out on a girls' night and like having a good time is one thing. Going out repeatedly until, they say nothing good happens after 2 a.m. or midnight, depending
Yeah,
on which
I think
one
it's
you're
midnight, but
whichever. But, when you're repeatedly putting yourself purposely in these situations and you're planning your life around being in these situations,
right.
it raises eyebrows. You can't, I think, I think you can be a man, you can go to Vegas for a wild bachelor party that is around, at a pool party, whatever, you can still be respectful to your wife.
Right.
I think, though, if you continue to put yourself in these late night, everybody's shit-faced situations again and again and again, that you really need to look at your behavior and why you aren't home in bed with your wife at 2 a.m. on
Correct.
any given Saturday.
So the posts that we shared and the receipts that we shared got back to Kyle, and he actually texted the woman who sent us the video, picture, etc. And he said, this is his text to her, sorry. So he sent a screenshot of our cocktail post and said, sorry, but did you send this in? I don't think I gave my number to more than 1 or 2 people, including you. And I was just being friendly. Sucks when I get screwed like this. I lost my wedding ring at the gym earlier this week.
Sorry, but that text sounds like guilt to me.
Listen, you're a married man. You're in Vegas. You're at a pool party in bikinis. You're not in a bikini, but the women are. Why are you giving these attractive women your number? And 1 or 2 people, you think you gave your number to a couple people. Why are you giving, as a married man, your number out to multiple women? It isn't like she was the director of management of the Bellagio Hotel and he was booking a DJ gig, right? Nobody should be that friendly when they're married. Nobody is screwing you. You're screwing yourself. You're disrespecting your wife. And none of that has anything to do with any of us that report on it. It's what it is.
Let me ask you a question, because I know what you're going to say to my first question. So I'm just going to assume you're going to say no. But can you think of any situations where you would be out in Vegas and you would give your number to a man that is just somebody else partying? I'm going to assume no, right?
No. And if I got the same receipts from Abe Leachy and Erin from Roni, I would think it was very inappropriate. Or any married person.
So here's
man or woman giving.
Here's my follow-up question. This is one that I am really curious, because I, as a mom of 2 kids, I do a lot of logistics planning, right? Carpool planning, tournament planning, things like that. And there are often, or like even play dates, when kids are coming back and forth. I usually copy the person's, if I'm trying to figure something out with a dad, I usually copy their wife on all of the texts, because I think that is a respectful thing to do. Do you have, what is your thought on that?
I am trying to think of a situation where I've texted a father, and I can't think of one, because in both cases, it's either a team message where everybody, whatever parent is on the team that's the contact, is on there, but it's public for the whole team.
Yeah.
Or I'm dealing with the mom.
Yeah. And
But I agree with what you're saying. If I had to text Jimmy's dad, John, I would tag his wife, Colleen, on that.
Right.
CC.
Yeah, you just put her on the text, which is because I think in my older son's situation, there's just a lot of planning and coordination with some of the travel team stuff, but then so there's a couple of the dads that kind of lead it. And so I can't think of a situation where I wouldn't also put the wife on the text, even though I know she's not going to be responding, that I'm, really reaching out to the dad to follow up on something or to firm up carpool or whatever. So it's that to me is extremely disrespectful to give somebody your number and like there's in a quote unquote friendly way. I don't know. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a thing in a respectful marriage. Maybe I'm like really traditional. I don't know.
I don't think it is either. And I'm interested to see. I haven't received any DMs or any comments on the cocktail posts that say he's just being friendly. I think people generally agree with us. And I do think that Kyle is a friendly, outgoing guy. But you don't have to give anyone your number. You can be friendly and outgoing.
I have met people in business situations, but then I give them my work email. I don't give them my phone number.
Same.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's whatever. This is not like a virtue signaling situation. This is just somebody who's got a lot of experience being married. And this is what I personally find to be appropriate or inappropriate. Okay, so let's talk about what's going to happen with the rest of the cast. Because I know I am really hoping we get this show that we have been asking for, which is this filming in the city with some of our favorite cast members, including Lindsay, which, I have said many times, I'm not like a huge Lindsay fan, but I really like watching her. Because I'm really losing interest in watching people my age. And this, Kyle, I'm looking squarely at you. Party just every weekend. And I like this idea of maybe Summer House going younger, more single, less couple house, and then possibly following some of the characters that we love, the cast we love in the city.
And I totally think that will happen. Regarding this summer and what Summer House will look like, it makes sense. We're going to see Lindsay out there. I think we'll also see her in the city. Unfortunately, we know that she is not being considered for Roni, despite her friendships with some of the cast, including Erin and Jessel. I don't agree with that decision. I know a lot of you guys don't agree, but that is what it is. Yeah, they should put her on Roni, but they're not. If there's a spinoff coming, which I do believe that there is, that has been the plan. But as we said, that plan has not been for the immediate. I can tell you it is not on the production schedule for the calendar year 2025. My hope is for calendar year 2026, they start moving with that again. Let's call it January, right? Get cameras up ahead of the summer so that before the next season 11 of Summer House, maybe we get to see the spinoff.
Well, also, just from a production standpoint, guys, like, listen to us. This makes sense because you got a team in place to be in the Hamptons on the weekends. Get that same team, that entire same team you can have working during the week on this other show. So we're talking efficiencies.
Exactly. Let's get efficient. And I actually wrote, because Amanda and I write notes, and I actually wrote in my notes, we know beyond this season 10, we knew maybe we would see Paige do some limited filming to close it out, but I strongly felt she wouldn't be full time, if back at all. So by season 11, who's coming back? Like, I can see Kyle and Amanda wrapping it up after this 10th summer. We still want Lindsay. So, yeah, as far as getting rid of Gabby, I really like her. I can see them wanting to free that salary up for somebody that might bring more drama. Emerald never got a fair shot, but he's out. There's some people who are saying that Lexi is out. I believe she's in. That's my gut. And my source agreed with that. Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, I read comments. There's a lot of, I think, fan energy behind Lexi as well. And there's some against her as well, but we're all noticing all of the posts from Lindsay posting with Erin. It's got our attention. Whether it means anything, probably not. But on the topic of Lindsay, at the reunion last night, we learned that she and her boyfriend are no longer romantically together, but they co-parent very well, according to Lindsay.
So not only did we have this in Cocktail Party in February, we had the details right down to them still brunching together. Listen, we had seen the speculation about them not being together, but then we had a reliable person tell us that they are just co-parenting, which is exactly what she said. We also have posts that they were spotted after we had heard they weren't romantically involved, that they were spotted at brunch. It made us wonder if they had gotten back together, but as Lindsay pointed out, they're co-parenting well. She did say that she's not in a place to date anyone else, And he spends a lot of nights at her place. She said, not friends with benefits, just co-parenting. But she pointed out that if he were dating somebody else, it would have to change their arrangement. She wouldn't want him staying with her.
Yeah.
So I do get the feeling that they are at a crossroads of her not being willing to give up her public persona for the relationship and him not willing to be with her if she doesn't give it up. Which makes me sad for her because he got together with her knowing full well who she was and what she did for a living. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope they are able to co-parent well and they're able to continue that because it's not easy to co-parent. And
if they don't get back together at some point, one of them is going to date somebody else. They're not just going to be celibate like forever.
But also, as Gemma gets older, I think things can change a little bit because when you have an infant, it's not like the infant can be doing a week on, week off with their mother. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that Tanner, the dad, is spending nights with the baby. So like I can see it being like, okay, Tanner, like you're here. If she wakes up in the night, tonight's your night. So Lindsay can actually get some sleep because I don't think the baby is probably sleeping at Tanner's house yet. But as she gets older, it'll become a little bit easier because it's not as immediate, parenting is not as immediate as in like the baby's crying, I need to go feed her right now.
Right.
Situation. It'll be interesting to see, but I hope that they can continue to co-parent. So New York, Next Gen New York City started this week. Before we get into the people, I am curious to hear what you think about everything. But did you, after watching that show, and I know you're a New Yorker, so this is because I watched the show and felt like it's making New York City look amazing, like very much like Sex and the City did, the way the city was a character of sorts.
100%. It gave such Gossip Girl vibes.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The city is a character in the same way the city is a character on Roni. I was excited and hopeful, but I was actually really pleasantly surprised with how good it was. The cast meshed very well together. And you have Charlie, Georgia, and Ava, who are like legit New Yorkers, right? And it felt that way. It felt authentic. You then have the Bravo infusion of Brooks, who went to NYU, who is seemingly really friends with Charlie.
Yeah.
And Georgia and Ava as well. Riley also went to NYU.
Yeah.
So they do all have that common bond. We saw their backstories. We saw who was rich, like Charlie and Ava, and like celebrity, like Ava, and then who wasn't, like Georgia, who's just a hustler.
Right.
It was what felt like an authentic representation of the New York City Gen Z social scene. So let's go through the episode as we met everyone.
Kim Bierman's daughter, Ariana, was the first person they showed. We hear that she will be the breakout star, and I feel like I'm already seeing it.
Remember, when she was little, she was the smart one in the family. She continues to hold down that crown.
Yeah.
We saw her and her boyfriend Hudson looking at apartments. I have to tell a quick story. So on the way to one of my daughter's tournaments, we had to drive through Manhattan. We're in gridlock traffic. And there was this small brownstone. And it was on the way to the Holland Tunnel. So it was like a major street.
Right.
And my husband was like, just for shits and giggles, Google that address. I would love to know what that is listed at.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a fully attached brownstone. Think Sonia Morgan's, but not as tall. So not as many floors. So smaller than that. Some brownstones do have a garage. This did not. It was $8 million. Or like 7.7 or something. So when I looked at the listing, it said it was like 3,000 square feet, but it looked tiny. It was fully attached. My kids were like, oh my God. So Manhattan real estate is truly insane. Ariana's boyfriend, as we know, because we've posted about it in Cocktail, Hudson, he's uber rich. His family, his dad created Zaxby's. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have them by you? I think they're mostly in the South.
They're in the South. I've been there before, but yeah, they're in the South.
This is a fast food chain, and So he does very well. Ariana shared that her mom stole all the money she made over the years, I assume from the show and any brand deals or whatever. She actually noted that she moved out because of her mother's lying. And I guess like we can call it like personality disorder, really, truly. But she did say her parents stole her money. So Croy is not an innocent in this.
Right.
But yet she does carry guilt and she still sends her mom money all the time. And Hudson expressed concerns because, well, he understands her guilt. And of course, he understands her need to want to help the 4 little kids that Kim and Croy have. He said to her, how do we even know that money's going to the kids? Like, I think he's trying to say to her, like, yes, we want to help the kids, but we have to do something where we know that it's going to them and it's being utilized for them. It was so disturbing learning this.
It is so sad. I can't say I'm surprised that it happened to her, knowing how bad the finances had gotten with Kim and Croy. I was honestly very surprised, in a good way, I guess, to see Ariana be so honest about it.
Yes.
Seeing her feel so conflicted about wanting to send the money to her mom for the kids, but then also seeing her mom drink a $200 bottle of wine. That's just not a way that I could see myself living a life. And then that they lied about where all the money went. Like you said, said she moved out because of all of the lying. All of this feels unfathomable to me, but it also, again, just makes me wonder about the mental health of Croy and Kim. And which just makes my heart go, because they have...
Speaking of Kim, in real time, this morning, I got a text from a cocktailer that sent me a picture that isn't a good one. She's going to try to get a better one when they land. They're currently in flight. Who spotted Kim Zolciak on a flight to the Bahamas, sitting diagonally from our cocktailer, talking very loudly and chugging bloodies. I hope she can get me a better picture. Oh, and she's also with a Croy lookalike. And it looks like it's first class. Let me try to zoom in. But yeah, it's first class.
Hopefully he's paying for everything. I also thought, I don't know if you picked up on this, but when Ariana and Hudson are sitting outside at that restaurant and there's that close-up on the bottom of her Louboutins.
Yeah.
It's such a metaphor, I feel like, for where she is in life, which is she had wealth, it's been taken away, and she's kind of clawing her way back to the top. I don't know. I thought it was cool. It was cool video work, cool editing, and I'm really rooting for her.
Same.
Next, they showed Brooks. He is the creative director for his mother, Meredith Marks' company. He shares that feels like he's living in her shadow.
I have to say, I think Brooks is a great fit. The Bravo audience knows him. He's connected to both the New York City kids, like Charlie and Georgia and Ava, and then the Bravo kids. So it really positions him to be the glue.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is also very just good looking. I thought too, the fact that he's not a confrontation person and kind of watching him struggle with that, I think is kind of interesting, because we're so used to people on housewives shows going all in. So I think that's kind of an interesting angle. I have to say, if he feels like he's in his mother's shadow, don't work for her.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons that I think I'm really going to like this show is because I feel like this is one of the most pivotal, if not the most pivotal point in people's lives. Because I remember feeling so scared to go and work and build my career on my own, because school and college were very comfortable for me. I was good at getting good grades. I was good at like figuring things out, but I had, building a career, I had no idea how to do that. I went to school in a smaller town, and then I moved to a big city that I was not from, and I figured it out. And I never thought of it as brave at the time, but looking back, I really do. And so I really identify with these kids and where they are, because it's just such a crazy time of life where people are told, you're an adult now, you have to figure it out. Like Riley said, she's got a year until her mom cuts her off. And I'm like, that's more than a lot of people have, but I still identify with that. So I just think I really like this theme and seeing this through the Gen Z lens. And so, we got that tea about this being the next big Bravo franchise. And I can really see that because this is a struggle that people in any city or town face ultimately. So it feels like
that is such a good point. The first episode, if you haven't watched it, don't let disliking a housewife or feeling like the offspring are entitled deter you, because it really is good, and they're really giving it. They're not coming on there and glossing over anything.
Yeah, and like, I mean, while some of them are legitimately booked and busy. You know, you look at Ava Dash, who we see, and you know, she's doing it. We see something like Amira, who we'll talk about in a minute. And Georgia, who we'll also talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But they're out there and they're working. And again, like something I very much, they're making their new group of friends outside of college. Like these are all things that I did as well.
Yeah.
So we also have Charlie Zakur. He was a rich kid given the title crypto trader, which I found hilarious. He's like, yeah, my dad makes a lot of money and he gives me money and then I invest.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
While I'm sitting at the cafe using his credit card, I invest money.
Yes, exactly. But he's one that we'll be talking about, I think, quite a bit because he has been connected to this crypto scandal where you don't need to know much about crypto to know what happened. So there are these two, they call them these two crypto bros who live in New York, who are big, or who had moved to New York, came big on the club scene, spending hundreds of $1,000s in a night at the clubs. They had this brownstone that was rented that the New York Post is now calling the townhouse of horrors. They lured this. And to be clear, I'm talking about two crypto bros that are not Charlie. I will tell you guys in a second how he's leaked. But two crypto bros lured this Italian crypto investor into their townhouse, and they kidnapped him essentially for weeks, trapped him there because they are trying to get his crypto passwords. Because if you can get into somebody's crypto, essentially their wallet, you can take it because everything is it's untraceable with crypto. So you guys might remember the email, and then it'll show you guys how this Charlie guy is attached. So it says, I'm sure you've seen reports about this crazy case. Two crypto bros / assholes kidnapped and tortured an Italian crypto guy. He escaped. Turns out one of the next Gen NYC kids, Charlie, was the guy who introduced the crypto bros to some of the clubs, etc. Shady. And then it says there's also a picture of him literally standing at the crime scene when the one was being arrested.
So before we met Charlie, prior to the crypto bro scandal, and again, he introduced them and maybe he lives in the building. I don't believe he had anything. There is no connection as far as his involvement in torturing this person. That is not what we're implying.
He knows the guys, though.
He knows the guys, which is crazy. And we had heard a lot about him being a rich, spoiled kid. I actually thought he was more likable and didn't come off as a spoiled brat off the bat. He's very good friends with Brooks. He's from New York City. And I have to tell you guys, if you've watched Gossip Girl, he's Chuck Bass. But actually a little bit more likable. And it's only the first episode. Like, he doesn't seem devious. He's 29, so he's actually a little bit older than the kids. He is a New York City rich kid. It gives him access, right? He's had this access to places because of his wealth from a young age, because of the connections he has through his father, I'm sure. He knows all the movers and shakers. And based off of this, he is the guy around town that people want to be friends with, right? He gets you in. He gets you access. And yeah, I think he's going to be a star of the show.
Yeah, I think he's got swag too, or as the kids say.
Because he's not like really that good looking. I thought it was funny when somebody's like, he's like Scott Disick, and then they were like, but he looks like Neil Diamond. Like, he's not bad looking, but he's not Scott Disick cute. He's not like super cute, but he's okay. But he's cute enough considering.
Yeah, you can just tell like he's got some swag. I did a little bit of digging into him just because I'm curious. This whole crypto situation I think is really interesting. Also, just wanted to understand where the wealth comes from. So first, we heard on the show that apparently Charlie used to date Lindsay Lohan when he was a teenager and says, quote unquote, she used to pick him up from school. So I did Google it. Yes, Charlie's 29. Lindsay Lohan is now 38. So in no way would that have been a legal situation. But according to everything I've read, and I've always read about kids like this that grow up in, uber wealthy in New York City and kind of have the city at their disposal from like a young
Yes.
age.
My cousin actually went to a private school in the city. She got not a full, but a good scholarship, and she knew a lot of kids like this.
And so he's apparently been at the club since he was 14. So that would all make sense. His dad is an investment banker who is now retired and does his own private investing. His mom is an art collector who lives in Palm Beach.
So his parents are divorced?
I don't know if they were ever married. I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know. They might be. I just didn't actually dig into that part of it. But like you said, Charlie has not been charged or arrested in connection with that scandal, but we will be keeping an eye on this. First of all, I think it's a really interesting story, but second of all, just to see how things pan out with his connection. Back to the Chuck Bass thing. Do you remember on Gossip Girl how we bought all of the peonies in New York and then Blair thought he was trying to sabotage her prom, but he actually bought them all for her.
Yes.
I could see him kind of having this softy side.
I agree.
But Ava, who is Damon Dash's daughter, who co-founded Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z, her mom is Rachel Roy, the fashion designer. Rachel Roy, you guys might know, is rumored to be the girl in the Beyonce song that infers there was some sort of affair with Jay-Z and called her Becky with the good hair. So, yeah, I mean, I think Ava is absolutely gorgeous. Like we said, booked and busy. She's going to be really interesting to watch. She dated Diana Jenkins' son, I think. And then I also read that she did some time as Crystal Minkoff's nanny.
Yes, I think she was actually shown like in the background of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Crystal's kids.
Yeah.
Absolute real deal. I'm a hip hop fan. I love that her father was in the episode. I hope there's more of that. And her mom. We see Chloe Brooks' gorgeous sister. She's heavily featured. We heard she would be. There's a lot of kids who are not main cast members featured. A bunch of Charlie's friends who seem to be fellow trust fund kids on the scene. Charlie and Chloe have a flirty vibe. They go on a date. We see him texting Brooks, who was rightfully offended. Something like, oh, meet up with us later unless your sister's back at my apartment. Not cool.
Yeah, no. I think he can see where the drama, this may have been a slightly manufactured or maybe encouraged situation from producers, but you can also see that Brooks is legit pissed about it.
Yes.
Okay, so Georgia, who is their friend, she's in PR, like party planning, like a young Lindsay Hubbard. She doesn't come from extreme wealth. She's fourth generation New York City, grew up in the Upper West Side, says she doesn't call it hustle. She calls it anxiety, but big on, making friends, connections. Definitely seems like she's building success on her own.
So she is another representation, and I was so happy that they included her on the cast because she is the New York City dream, right? She is the person who we see on the sitcoms, the Serena's boyfriend, whose name escapes me on Gossip Girl. Him and his sister live in Brooklyn, and their parents are teachers or something like that. And they have scholarships to the fancy.
Dan, I think is his name.
Dan. They have scholarships to the fancy school that everybody attends. That's Georgia. She's the kid who didn't have the money, but was there, gained access through her hustle/anxiety and hard work. And she is earned her spot on the scene. She saw it. It wasn't her world. She made it her world. She did Diplo's party, a rave at Cat's Deli. I laughed my ass off that none of the kids knew about Harry and Sally.
Yeah.
These are young 20-year-olds.
And I'm like, girl, like, why don't you pick up what everybody else is laying down? Like, nobody else really knows what this is. Like, we do, but stop bringing it up. I felt
Yeah.
she was not.
She's got a very quirky personality, which I like. She's very authentic.
Yeah.
And I love that Riley lived above Cat's Deli and didn't realize it was like the most famous deli because of that movie. So quirky and interesting. And then when we hear like the voice from the bathroom about her not washing her hands, I have to tell you, I get the germ thing. I'm not a germaphobe, but that's extreme. And I love that they were all like, oh my God, she's going to get pink eye.
I have a lot of things to say about this because I'm the same. I am not a germaphobe. You won't find me using hand sanitizer compulsively.
No, but like if I pump gas, I use it. If I'm on a plane, I use it. Like there's a time and a place. I'm not somebody who's spraying it all day long.
Same. Exact same scenarios. I agree that some germs are good. I think it's a bad thing to like try to completely sanitize yourself. But E. coli, which literally comes from poop, if you ingest it or get it in your eye, you can get viruses. That's how you get norovirus, is not washing your hands. And like I do feel a little bad for this girl because I feel like this is going to be something that follows her for the rest of her life, unless she's like, okay, I have now been educated that I do need to wash my hands. Like, I feel like it could be really bad for her business. Like, I don't blame the other people for not wanting to hug her. That would really gross me out. I
get the sense that she was exaggerating. I mean, she didn't wash her hands.
I don't know. I am not, again, I'm not one of those people who like compulsively washes my hands the second I walk in. Like, I just not. But the second I walk into my house just because I've been out in public, I don't. And like, I try to remind my kids, like, before, if we sit down to a restaurant and they're going to be eating with their hand, like, to go wash their hands, you know, if we've been out doing stuff. But I'm not, again, not compulsive. I do use a paper towel to exit a public bathroom, and I'm really glad that I do, now that I know that there are people who do not believe in washing their hands.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am fully sold on Ariana. I think Gia can go. And this is not because I'm not a big Teresa fan, but she doesn't live in the city. She seems scared of the city. And her real only tie is that her mom knows the other moms, and she's met a couple of them through BravoCon.
And I would just like to point something out as far as like regional and like where they live versus Manhattan. So there is Bergen County where Fessler, Margaret, and the Gorgas moved. Bergen County is right over the bridge, right? In the same way that Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and the Bronx, you have easy access to the city. Bergen County is the same thing. She lives in what would be comparable, like, she's in New Jersey, okay? It would be like me being a New Yorker, but actually being from where Paige DeSorbo's from, upstate New York, and then going to the city. It would take, oh yeah, it would take, like, from where do they live? Montville? It would take at least 2 hours or an hour and a half, like with no traffic. Forget about the fact that you get stuck in traffic in New York.
I'm Googling that.
Yeah, Google it. It would take 50 minutes to the city. Oh, sorry, 59 minutes to the city, which doesn't exist.
Right.
So you're talking an hour and a half on a Friday after work to get to the city. Minimum an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You'd have to leave at very off hours for it to be 55 minutes. So it isn't all
miles. That's not just.
It's not the same as Riley living in Brooklyn. First of all, Brooklyn is the closest borough, but parts of Brooklyn could take you longer. But with no traffic, it would never be. The distance isn't 55 minutes. Right. Traffic in New York City can make it such. But the actual distance from Montville is that. So that would be like living an hour upstate in New York and just hopping to the city. It doesn't happen. So it doesn't fit in that way. I agree with you. She doesn't, other than Brooks, who she really only knows from BravoCon and Riley. And actually, her and Riley don't get along. We've gotten a lot of emails about it. And actually, Gia made a comment that I don't know how to please Riley. Like, I wasn't I guess Riley thought something she said was comparing Teresa to Candy. And Gia is like, I didn't mean to do that. It was just a matter of saying both our moms were housewives. I guess we'll see the details of that in upcoming episodes. Riley doesn't like Gia.
Yeah.
And Gia really isn't heavily featured. She was only in it a little bit.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes from here. Then we have Amira, who got her start as a beauty director from Paper Magazine. You know, it says like New York City has really seen her glow up. I forget what the words she used, something busted, crusted, and dusted.
Yeah.
When she came to the city. And then she worked for Victoria's Secret, which she says is really what got her noticed. And she is a content creator. She went to NYU with Brooks. I love that her Instagram bio, she describes herself as the Barbie you always wanted. And then, of course, as I'm like looking into her, I got sucked into watching her makeup videos, which I very much enjoyed. And she's definitely got that it factor, and I like watching her.
They didn't mention it, but somebody told me ahead of time that she's trans. I don't know if that's what she meant by her New York City glow up. I actually asked the person again because I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't tell. So this is what I was told. So I assume it's true. That's not like a rumor.
Yeah.
Overall, love New York being the character. Love the Gossip Girl vibes. Pleasantly surprised. I really am so satisfied with how good it was. And it was worth the wait.
Yeah, I agree. I was prepared to not like the show after we were told we might not because it was made for Gen Z, but I really liked it. Does that make us Gen Z?
It makes us the parent of people who probably cusp Gen Z. I don't think our kids are Gen Z. If they are, they're like the last year or something.
I don't know. I was actually asking. My son seemed to know, but of course, then I've completely forgotten.
Maybe Gen Y. I don't know. My son argues with my daughter that he's a different generation. They're 3 years apart. I'm like, just logistically, you can't be a different generation.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the Google search says the year cutoff is.
Yeah. You're raised in the same house by the same parents 3 years apart. Or, you know, your ages are 3 years apart. Yeah.
So we don't have much time, but I think we should touch a little bit on the Valley.
Yes.
Do we want to go straight to the Jacks of it all?
I do, actually. Because I texted you this morning because one of our friends, a friend of the pod, he's a cocktailer. He's a friend to all in cocktail as well.
And he's a content creator, Stone Cold Daddy. He makes hysterical parenting memes.
So funny. I wanted to read his comments, and I asked his permission. He said it was fine. Because obviously you guys know, like, we protect but he is cool with us reading this. So this is what he said. I completely agree with this take and asked you if you are cool with us reading it on the pod, and you agreed. So it says, Bravo needs to get Jax off the television as soon as possible. I'm usually here. This is Stone Cold Daddy saying this, which is true. I'm usually here to talk shit, but there's something deeper at stake here. Every minute he's featured makes the audience complicit in furthering what is obviously a potentially very dangerous situation. He's prone to violent outbursts with a child present. He's prone to be coked up around his kid. We're not talking toxic anymore. We're talking the roots of clear and present danger. The Valley features him in countless situations where he's surrounded by people who aren't holding him accountable and enabling him to continue to behave horribly. Friends, family, and the goddamned is what he said, network implored him to go to rehab. And he said, F that, and made a mockery out of whatever the F he called rehab. Microphones, cameras, and exposure continue to be poured upon, someone exploiting the attention to paint a narrative that there are two sides to every story. If there's two sides, they're both effed, and so is he. There will already be questions as to why Bravo allowed him to have a platform for so long. And there's potential questions that they don't want to or won't be able to answer if this escalates. Everything we know about situations that tell us that unless there is significant intervention, these things only go in one direction, straight to hell. And then he says, sorry for yelling.
I couldn't have said it so succinctly and very well said. And I think it sums up what the audience is feeling. And I have a lot of you DMing me. He brings such a dark side to it. And there's the other side of it that is trying to group Jesse and now to some extent Danny in with him. And you can't compare.
Mm-mm.
As there was a meme that pointed out on Twitter, it said, you can't compare Jax and Jesse. Jax's son appears afraid of him, and Jesse's daughter adores her.
Yeah.
Jesse isn't a perfect person, and certainly his treatment of Michelle has been awful from what we've seen. But Jax is dangerous. When the producer broke the third wall to tell Brittany that Jax was texting her and that there was a bug in the house and he could hear what they were saying, I felt like we were in a horror movie.
And what's so weird, and this is where I look at Brittany a lot differently after this episode, is that she didn't freak out. It was almost like she took it in stride because she's been dealing with abuse for so long. She's got to get out of this. And I felt for her so hard when we saw Jax be contrite and, oh, I'm going to give her all the money from the podcast because, that's the right thing to do. And then a day or two later sends her this awful email saying, no, you can't, you can't have it, and just berating her.
It was, and so something like that, which of course we all know that he does this, right? But seeing him make himself look like the good guy by telling Janet and Jason on their FaceTime call, which, by the way, you guys noted that they started on an iPhone, they went to an Android. I assume that was something with production. Maybe the signal was bad or who knows.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then we watch Brittany read the email that he sent saying, you're on your own to figure out the mortgage. How about the fact that he also rented that apartment while she was already paying for a rental? It's just, his behavior is so erratic and frightening. He can't be on the show.
But he is, I guess, where I was going, that point is he is directing his anger at her. He's got so much anger and we know from Jax's mouth himself that when he gets out of this first rehab, he goes right back to his shit. Right? Goes back to drinking, goes back to cocaine. And that's when things tend to get really volatile with him. And I want to see Brittany and Cruz get off of this horrific roller coaster, because I think whether or not there has been physical abuse other than the table situation that we have heard about, Stone Cold Daddy is exactly right. This isn't headed anywhere good. And I think some of Brittany's reactions are stunted because she is gotten into this cycle of abuse and doesn't know different.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, sorry, my daughter just came in and interrupted me. What else is new?
I hope Bravo is hearing us. I think, again, Stone Cold Daddy is absolutely right that because Jax has been, quote unquote, the star, there is so much enablement. They give somebody with a drug and alcohol problem a bar.
Yeah.
It's just, he's exactly right. I hope Bravo's listening.
That scene, I mean, so many of this, they haven't shown us, but they've told us about the violence. And that scene, which is mild in comparison to when he threw a table at Brittany and physically injured her, I would imagine, was chilling. And I think, as an example, the abuse that Taylor suffered from Russell, Bravo wasn't aware of. And when he ultimately committed suicide, they weren't culpable. They didn't know about the abuse. It wasn't public. We all know about this. The network made him go to rehab. It obviously wasn't successful. He hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So the next logical step is for us to hear that he won't be on the show. which I believe we will hear. I can't imagine they're going to keep him on. I hope that I'm right.
Let's hope.
We love you guys. Sorry to end on that note.
Yeah, sorry to end on a bummer of a note, but we've got some good stuff for Cocktail Party that we'll discuss. And we'll also talk a little bit more about all the other Valley stuff. And also, here's a happy note. Kristen Doty is going to have a baby any minute. So keep an eye out for that news, because I think her due date might be today, June 5th.
Yes, very close. And I'm so excited because I feel like I'm going to love the baby name too.
I know. I'm really excited. So we'll
Can't
be on baby watch for both her and for Nia.
Yes. Till next time.
What's up, cocktailers? We want to thank you, as always, for listening to Cocktails and Gossip. Because of you, we've hit some amazing milestones, had some hilarious conversations, and have grown a truly amazing community. If you haven't already followed our podcast, hit the follow button in the top right of your Apple Podcast player, the follow button under the show logo on Spotify, or the subscribe button on Google Podcasts. We thrive on you, our audience. So make sure to tell all your gossip-loving friends about us too. And if you want to get all the tea, join our membership, Cocktail Party, by going to bravoandcocktails.com/join. Our members get access to the exclusive tea we post, the weekly podcast without ads, plus another additional bonus podcast every week. And of course, members also get to join us on our monthly live Cocktail Party Zoom, where we talk about the latest tea and even share tea that's just too hot to put in writing. Last, but maybe best, our members get access to the Cocktail Party Discord, where you can chat with Amanda, me, and all of the other cocktailers as well. There are always some great combos and hilarious comments happening in Discord. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you.